Welcome. Welcome to space and the associated weather therein. We'll also show some weather on planet Earth. The rapid growth of Sunspot 3082 is the main story. Otherwise, a dip in solar activity, 2 new sunspots growing here, additional CME strikes, and a continued coronal hole high-speed stream on the way. Let's take a look at that in colorized magnetogram. Sunspot 3082 there. Also, watch this area here setting in the northwestern limb for solar flares in the coming day or two. There's the intensity gram. And let's take a brief look at volcanic activity. We'll do that and lots more here at the Smash News Network, least busted name of news. Congratulations on realizing that the channel exists. So Bezimiani, now on the list on the Kamchatka Peninsula, exploding, producing a 12,000-foot ash plume. Sakurajima exploding, 8,000-foot ash plume over Kyushu, Japan. Mount Ibu, down in Indonesia, exploding. 7,000-foot ash plume from Mount Ibu. Semeru exploding in Indonesia. East Java is the island on which it's located. Semeru producing a flight level 140, a 14,000-foot ash plume. 7,000-foot ash plume over Halmahera from Dakono's explosive activity. Mount Cerberus has produced a 20,000-foot ash plume. That volcano complex is called Samisa Pochnoi, located in the Aleutian Islands. Flight level 200, 20,000-foot ash plume over Samisa Pochnoi. Fuego in Guatemala exploding, flight level 140, 14,000-foot ash plume. And headed down to South America, we see Nevado del Ruiz exploding. 20,000-foot ash plume from Nevado del Ruiz. Ecuador's usual suspects, Sangay and Revenador, both exploding. 22,000-foot ash plume from Sangay, 14,000-foot ash plume from Revenador, and headed down even farther south to Sabancaya, located in Peru. Sabancaya producing a 25,000-foot plume of volcanic ash as it explodes, flight level 250. And let's take a brief look at seismicity. Largest quakes of the past 24 were 5.5 magnitude quakes. That's a 90-day bar graph, showing only 2 7-magnitude quakes over that period. One of those 5.5s occurred in Ecuador. That was at about 10:28 Universal Time yesterday. The other one came in while we did show prep. Also, there was a 5.1 at the Recanes Ridge out in the North Atlantic Ocean. Kamchatka Peninsula saw a 4.9. Japan had a 5.3. That one was at depth, likely not feeling like a 5.3 from the surface. It was at 160 kilometers estimated depth. Some quakes in the U.S. They're all relatively small. One 5.1 on the Mid-Atlantic Ridge and a 5.5 at Indonesia. That one also at depth, 140.9 kilometers estimated depth. And headed back to space, we've created some composite imagery here. 335 plus 171 angstroms. Doing a great job showing Sunspot 3082. And we figured we would zoom in a little more closely. These areas over here are both sunspots. At least they were when we did show prep. And we'll also show 304 angstroms. By the way, these are all 24-hour videos from SDO. Here's 304 angstroms ionized helium. Some prominence activity up here in the northwestern limb. Also down here in the southeastern limb. So flaring has actually come up a little bit while the radio flux has come down. Radio flux now down to 97 solar flux units. There's the 1-year chart of the 10.7 centimeter radio flux represented by this black line. And if you look at the red line below it, that's a sunspot number. You can see how proportional those two data sets indeed are. Space Weather Enthusiast Dashboard continues to forecast likely geomagnetic storm and geomagnetic unrest conditions. So I believe this is still yet to come. We could see a KP5 at any moment, really. That's from coronal mass ejections. Also expecting some geomagnetic unrest into early tomorrow, Tuesday, August 23rd. That's from ongoing coronal hole high-speed streams and transient events. In other words, coronal mass ejection strikes. If you haven't seen the Twitter channel, here's some fantastic aurora imagery from southern Ontario that we shared on the Twitter feed for the third night in a row at their location. Some great multicolored aurora being seen around the world. Next, we'll look at the earthly geospace. It's our geospace magnetosphere movie for the past 4 hours. You can see some differences in the solar wind coming in there, represented by different magnetohydrodynamic pressure, moving from left to right. Those are variations in the solar wind speed, I think. We'll get to that in a moment. Again, that's the last 4 hours, Earth's magnetic moment from space. Here's Earth's magnetic moment from the ground for the last 4 hours. And again, you can see some variations there as well. Geospace delta B is a reference to changes in Earth's B field, the field that goes through the magnet being Earth. And here is an average of global geomagnetism. Notice the planetary K index. Still calm, although we wouldn't be surprised, nor would NOAA be surprised, to see some increases to a KP5 geomagnetic storm condition. So maybe those CMEs are moving a little more slowly than expected. Again, expecting geomagnetic unrest and possible storm conditions still today. Geomagnetic unrest still forecasted into tomorrow. So looking at the real-time solar wind here. Current conditions are still elevated for solar wind velocity. 550 kilometers per second. Solar wind density here, nominal at 8.2 protons per cubic centimeter. The coronal hole high-speed stream continues. Next, looking at some magnetic data, there are your GOES 16 and GOES 17 magnetometers. Those satellites are located at a geosynchronous orbit, about 10 to 11,000 miles of altitude there, and they're located around the equator. The N's and M's, those stand for noon and midnight local time for the satellites. We're seeing a tighter range here, lower highs and higher lows over the past 24 hours. Earth lies in a south pole current sheet, and the solar polar south field is not at the south pole at the moment. It's more directed toward Earth than it is directed to the solar south. We'll get to that in a minute. First, your line of sight plot. The sun's B field depicted here in those blue potential field surface source lines. That magnet being the sun. So here's our coronal hole plot, and you can see a lot of red there. Those coronal holes are south pole coronal holes as the south solar polar field migrates. It's called solar cycle 25. Here's a view of coronal holes in 211 angstroms from SDO, the Solar Dynamics Observatory. And we can expect another high-speed coronal hole wind stream showing up from this fairly well-defined coronal hole, moving right into the Earth-facing zone at the moment. About 3 more days, so toward the end of the week, we can expect another high-speed stream. That one's going to be a little bit more extreme. Will it be accompanied by coronal mass ejections like the last one? We'll have to wait and see. There are lots of filaments in the northern hemisphere. And let's pause for station identification before we move to sunspots, solar flares, coronal mass ejections, and lots more. And good morning, Tin Man 1057. Thanks for leaving a comment on our live stream. Welcome to the Smash News Network, least busted. Naming news. So flare probability here, I don't know, it's decently high. Don't be surprised to see a large flare from sunspot 3081. The most active region in the last 24 hours was sunspot 3085, which has grown quite a bit in the past 24 hours. Again, 2 new sunspots over here. Those did have umbre when we did show prep. Here's the last 24 hours of SDO continuum imagery. We won't spend a lot of time on that. We'll zoom in. So sunspot number to rise today, along with the radio flux. And here's your solar magnetogram. And next we'll move to the realm of solar flaring. One of the wavelengths to view solar flares is 131 angstroms. That and 94 are the 2 best. They're specifically designed to view solar flares. They take 10 images per minute instead of only 2 like the rest of the wavelengths. And here's the last 3 days of X-rays. Don't get photons and protons confused, folks. If you don't know the difference between a photon and a proton, hold up a piece of paper and blow air on it. That air coming out of your face, those are protons. Then take your flashlight and shine a flashlight on it. That light striking the paper, that's photons. X-rays are photons, high-frequency ones, ionizing radiation, which does not make it to the surface of the Earth. Protons are diffuse gas, also not making it to the surface of the Earth, getting stuck in Earth's magnetic fields. Anyway, several C-class intensifications happening there. Let's take a look at those in 94 angstroms. Lots more fascinating imagery and data to cover here on the Daily Space Weather. So let's continue on. No relativistic protons showing up in the past 3 days, and indeed the past week. It's been coast is clear as far as relativistic particles showing up. Those are often associated with large flares. And here's a star chart just to orient our viewers. We're unable to see any of this at the moment. It's rainy and cloudy over Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania today. If you are up before dawn and you have clear skies, you may see Venus, the Moon, Mars, and Jupiter all up there near the ecliptic, which is the yellow line. The blue line here is the galactic plane. Here's your solar system forecast as we approach a new moon. We've got a crescent waning at the moment. Here's your 1-week forecast for the solar system. Keep in mind this diagram is not to scale. Here's where things will be in a week. Mercury coming back around to the populated side of the solar system. Venus headed to the unpopulated side of the solar system. Next, some coronagraphs. And things have been pretty chill here. There are some minor CMEs happening in the past 24 hours, but nothing too exciting and nothing earthly directed. So that was yesterday. Here's today. We'll also show the view from stereo A and the Soho-Lasco C3. By the way, if you're wondering where the Soho-Lasco C3 is, Next time you look up and you see the moon, this satellite is about 4 times the distance to the moon. It's about 1 million miles toward the sun. So when you see the sun at noontime, this satellite is about 1 million miles away from you. It's really far out there, orbiting Lagrangian point 1. And that, by the way, is also where the solar wind is measured, well outside the Earth's magnetosphere, where the solar wind shows a signal. No exciting CMEs showing up there on the coronagraphs. We could see some, though, especially with additional sunspots forming in the northern hemisphere. There are quite a few filaments up there. As you can see, these dark absorption features and these prominences are all solar filaments. That is the hydrogen alpha imagery from El Teide, Spain's ground-based solar observatory. Likelihood of additional CMEs quite high indeed. The southern portion of the earthly-facing solar disk is now rather devoid of filaments. Here's some additional imagery. It's the NASA GO 16 SUVI. We do have prominences all around the western limb and some on the eastern limb. So activity not dropping off a cliff by any means. It's continuing to kick back up promptly. The likelihood of a zero sunspot day is getting lower and lower as we're a couple years from solar maximum yet. Here's 171 angstroms, the house favorite wavelength. Which means it's time to do bonus features. Starting with invitations to join us on Twitter. If you don't have a Twitter account, create one. Yes, the censorship is pathetic. Yes, big tech can't break the internet, and the internet can break big tech. I don't know why they insist on self-destructing. I'm sure there's some perfectly reasonable explanation for it, folks. We're also on Twitch. Not just Twitter, also Twitch. Twitch.tv/SmashOmash. Thanks to our new subscribers, everybody leaving comments, etc. on YouTube. Did you know we're paid just this side of nothing to put the content on YouTube? So support the channel with a like, subscribe, share, comment. If you're a larger channel, feature us on your channel. We'd be more than happy to show up as representatives of the Smash News Network, least busted name in news. You can also support the channel by becoming a member of the Smash team at the gold or silver level. There's even a bronze level, which is free, or it doesn't cost you anything. Thanks to the gold and silver Smash team level members. Credit Crawl is coming back. Make sure you hit Smash staff up about that. SmashOmash.com/Smash team. We replaced Patreon with a superior site, although we still do have Patreon. If you don't want to help us, help yourself out by becoming a member of SureMed, the American Better Health Organization. If you've got questions, you can drop me a line on that email address or give me a call. The number listed there as well. You can find links on the home page and below this video to my personal SureMed URL. Drop me a line if you got questions. I can even enroll you over the phone during normal business hours. Today's featured product is Google Defined. Did you know that Google doesn't even want you using Google as a verb? I know, right? But if you're going to use Google as a verb, at least have the definition down correct. What it means is to obtain biased search results by using the Google Junkware search engine to obtain biased internet search results. Here at the Smash News Network, least busted name of news, we don't use Google as a search engine. And I certainly don't use it as a verb. I say web search. It's still 2 syllables. So don't be lazy. Get objective information by using other search engines. Did you know the 2 largest search engines in the world are Google and YouTube? Yeah, Google and YouTube are the 2 largest search engines in the world now. Google is no longer the most visited site. It's been dethroned by TikTok. As has Facebook as the most popular social media site. And I think that's just hilarious. I'm not really a fan of TikTok, although we do have an account over there. Not really a fan, however, there needs to be competition and less monopolization of the internet. So perhaps pick up some Google-defined ware. Links below the video to that as well. And that link will take you to our Redbubble shop, which is listed in order of best selling. There is the merch in order of best selling. Perhaps you'd like to pick up a Fauci Face of Evil bath mat to put your feet on the face of evil on a daily basis. Who knows? Links to that, again, below the video and on the homepage at smashamash.com. So welcome to the Neo-Renaissance. Once again, links to SureMed, Instagram, Twitch, our Discord permanent invite link showing up there on the homepage. Links to our social media accounts and so on at smashamash.com. Support us with clicks. Support us with merch. Support us with a membership to the Smash team. Links to that all over the internet. Next, looking at charging hazards here on our Satellites community dashboard. And yowzers, seeing some internal charging hazards here caused by high-energy electrons building up inside the internal circuitry of satellites around the Indian Ocean. Also over northern Australia. Could cause some minor satellite outages, some minor satellite errors, and so on. And here is the GOES electron flux going back into warning levels here. So as the coronal hole high-speed stream subsides, we are waiting for additional coronal mass ejection strikes, as well as we've talked about on the channel for days and days. That's the GOES 16 and GOES 17 electron flux measurements. There's the NOAA forecast expecting another electron storm condition to continue here. An uptick forecasted by NOAA, and I would tend to agree with that. There's the one-year chart to put the electron flux in context. The greater than 2 mega-electron volt electron fluence. We'll also show the F ionosphere layer as we do daily. This imagery shows temperatures of the thermosphere, penetration of electromagnetic radiation into atmospheric layers. Did you know that the X-rays are completely filtered out by the time they reach the stratosphere? Yeah, the mesosphere filters out X-rays. That's why we use spacecraft. In order to measure X-rays, they can't be measured from the surface of the planet. They don't make it to the surface of the planet. And over here on the right, we're talking about molecular concentrations of the upper atmosphere. Here is the F layer in vibrational frequency, or megahertz. That, my friends, is the bridge between Earth and space. And while not everything in the universe is electric, some things are, and this activity is largely electric in nature. The ionosphere, it consists of charged particles, hence the term ionosphere. So here's your anomaly in megahertz from a 30-day median. And there's your latest image, 10:15 universal time. Next, the total electron content forecast. This is showing the free electrons all the way from the ground level up to your GPS satellite, located about 12,500 miles of altitude. And we can expect to see the electron bands here remaining rather consistently constrained around the equator at noon, as we typically do see with high levels of electron flux. Feel free to pause the video on this image. It shows distances to various things in miles. Here's your latest intensity gram and your latest solar magnetogram. So this up here, that's a sunspot. It looks like it's already beta class. This down here, also a sunspot. That one looks alpha class. This one here is setting. It can produce large flares as it approaches the limb. The most exciting one is sunspot 3085, I think it is. Sunspot 3085. So there it is. It is magnetically complex. It's certainly beta gamma class. Could even be beta gamma delta class, but it's certainly beta gamma class. And there's your rock back from the magnetogram to the intensity gram. We'll bring up one more series of images. How about 171 angstroms plus colorized magnetogram? And that, darlings, is where the space weather coverage ends and the meteorology coverage begins. Know the difference between space weather and Earth weather. That's why we have a clear cut between space weather and Earth weather. So moving into meteorology now. Here at the Smash News Network, least busted name of news, we're going to drop some more facts. And we're looking at the Gulf Stream and sea surface temperature anomalies. So check it out. Spain's got very, very cold waters on its coast, and the North Atlantic has got very, very hot waters. Check out this area. That is 12 degrees Fahrenheit above normal. And it turns out the Gulf Stream, as you can see in this imagery, is indeed making it up to Ireland and Iceland. If you're worried about Europe experiencing a year without a summer, well, it didn't happen. Europe certainly had a summer. So that's sea surface temperature anomaly and currents. So these movements you can see here, those are currents. That is the Gulf Stream. Europe did not see frost in June this year. So everybody who was forecasting it, would you like to admit your failure, or did you just want to gloss over that and attempt to gaslight people who cite facts? Here are the surface winds of the eastern world. We've got a strong low here at the Philippines. That's looking pretty weird in shape. Let's zoom in for a brief moment. It's a fairly concentrated low there, right off the coast of the Philippines. Are the Philippines due for an earthquake? We are having an earthquake drought, folks. Remember, any earthquake can be a foreshock. There are the jet streams of the eastern world. Strong anticyclone here over China. China, that's high pressure over China right there. China, they're a currency manipulator, okay? They're stealing U.S. technology like central banking and manipulating their currency, okay? China. China anticyclone. Here are the jet streams of the Americas. Doubled up jet stream over North America, blowing backwards over Mexico. Chaotic jet streams in both hemispheres at the moment. Here are the surface winds of the Western world. Some strong surface winds around southern South America. And here are the surface winds of the central world, Europe, Africa, and the Middle East. And there are the jet streams, quite chaotic jet streams here, blowing backwards over part of the Atlantic Ocean, the central Atlantic Ocean here off the African coast, and the Indian Ocean seeing a backward jet stream as well. Here's your weather.gov map, and some major flooding forecasted here for Texas, Louisiana, Arkansas, and Alabama, and Mississippi, rather. So we're going to show a forecast of that. That's your weather.gov map. If your county's lit, click your county on weather.gov. Get your weather alerts. And let's break out the 72-hour GFS total accumulated precipitation forecast. It's looking pretty grim for some of these areas here. expecting excessive amounts of rain in eastern Texas. So this is the GFS 72-hour total accumulated precipitation forecast. Accumulation totals shown here in inches. And you can see large portions of Texas expected to see more than 3 inches of rain there. Also large portions of southern Arkansas, Louisiana, and portions of Mississippi. All expecting to see 3 inches of rain in some isolated spots there, as much as 6 inches of rain forecasted around the Texas-Arkansas border. Again, that's the GFS model for the next 72 hours. And let's show the European model. We're going to zoom in. So that's the next 12 hours. And let's go to the next 24 hours. And let's go to the next 3 days. So heavy rains there forecasted on the European model as well. That's a 72-hour European rain accumulation forecast. Once again, there's your weather.gov map. Some flash flood warnings showing up there in eastern Texas. Some strong lightning in Central America and southern Mexico. Very strong lightning signals there on our NASA GOES lightning mapper. Also some fast-moving systems there around the Arizona-California border. It looks like Yuma saw some serious thunderstorms in the past 10 hours. Here's a real-time lightning map from lightningmaps.org. And do we have terrestrial strikes? Some showing up in Oregon. Anyway, that's your real-time lightning map, showing you where the potential storms are located. Next, radar.weather.gov. And it looks like the rain is making its way out of the mid-Atlantic states here. We'll see if we can get that map animated. First, we'll look at the shortwave radiation map, showing clouds and fog when it's too dark to use the visible satellite. And you can see how the jet stream is indeed doubled up over North America. This will give some insight as well. And we've got really two different weather patterns here. We've got this high pressure zone of dry massive air providing a blocking feature from this cold air blasting in from Canada, and then a separate system here south of it with a series of lows. Hopefully that helps clarify your Doppler if your Doppler is looking a little bit odd. There's your radar.weather.gov map. Can we show all 50 states? I'm not so sure. In any case, there's a U.S. Doppler radar, a still image for some reason. There is the shortwave radiation map showing clouds and fog. And we'll close things out with water vapor. A lot of moisture there over Texas. So thanks for tuning into the Smash News Network. Once again, congratulations on realizing that the channel exists. Support the channel via clicking the links and getting involved, as we're doing a lot more than making these videos. Thanks for tuning in, and may that solar wind be at your back. Opinions expressed in this video, not necessarily the opinions of Smash News Network, least busted name in news.